Hey, welcome to the Workout Nerdout. I'm Julio Lopez, Certified Strength and Conditioning Specialist and Certified Personal Trainer. I have a question for you. Do you know how many reps you're supposed to do? Is there a number that's too high or too low? If you don't know the answer, that's okay. Maybe you're just not into strength training or weight training in general, or you're completely new to weight training. That's the reason for this. The number of repetitions really has to do with the person's goals. Are they looking for increasing muscular strength? Are they trying to build muscle size? Or are they trying to improve muscular endurance? So in general, low repetitions are more appropriate for improving muscular strength. And usually it's around 3 to 5 repetitions. The reason for this is that you're using much heavier weight than you are for those that are just looking to increase muscle size or improve muscle endurance. Because a lot more weight is being used, that's where perfect technique is absolutely paramount. Also, if you're doing workouts that are potentially dangerous, such as squat or bench press, spotter is, again, absolutely paramount. You don't want to risk it. It's not worth it at all to try to do those types of lifts, those types of really heavy lifts, without having someone there to spot you. For those that are just looking for improving muscle endurance, like triathletes, the Mighty Mujer ladies that competed over the weekend, or half marathoners, full marathoners, and such, higher number of repetitions and lowered amount of weight. So lighter load, higher repetitions, as opposed to strength training, lower repetitions, higher weight. The reason for this is you're actually trying to train your muscles into growing more mitochondria inside of the fibers. So the mitochondria, for those that aren't total nerds like me, the mitochondria is basically the energy factory of the muscle fibers. So that's why this is more appropriate for those that are training for endurance competitions. That way they're not going to tire out. So a marathon or half marathon or triathlete wants to be able to complete their full race without having their muscles starting to give out before reaching the finish line. However, there are some people, unfortunately, that carry with them the more is better mentality. Thinking, hey, I'm training for a full marathon, how about why not just do 50 repetitions of the workout? Or maybe someone that's just looking to build muscle size, how about let's do 50, 60 repetitions for a workout? This is not wise to do, and there's a couple reasons why. Let me backtrack a bit. For those that are looking for building muscle size, like the guys that are wanting to bulk up, or the girls that want to have a more shapely body, that want to have a stronger, more athletic look, in general, the rule is about 6 to 12 repetitions, so you're still gaining strength and building the muscle size, but it's not something specialized as doing strictly strength training or strictly endurance training. Endurance training is basically anywhere above 12 to 15 repetitions. You don't really want to go past 25, but if the weight is light enough, it could be okay, but 25 is usually the ceiling, especially that's what you hear from most strength and conditioning coaches like myself. So going back to doing the extremely high repetitions, like 40 to 50 repetitions, again, the reason why I'm not a big fan of it, and I wouldn't recommend it for some folks, is that muscle fatigue happens. If it's something that's like a squat or a deadlift where so much weight is being used and your body can be put in a disadvantageous position because of muscle fatigue, that's where you're putting yourself at risk for suffering a potential injury. Doesn't have to be an acute injury, an injury that's going to happen right then and there, like a torn ACL, which, boom, the ACL is torn, you're on the ground, you have to be taken to the hospital and get surgery, things like that. But it could produce a chronic injury, such as a slipped disc, something that's not going to happen today, probably not going to happen tomorrow, or the next day, or the next day, or a month from now, or maybe even a year from now. But by continuing to do such high repetitions and putting yourself in a disadvantageous position, that injury might come up later in the future. If you're young, this is probably not one of your biggest concerns, but for those that are in their 30s and the 40s and up, there's more susceptibility to such injuries, or you probably already have lower back pain, so this isn't a really wise thing to do. Another reason why some folks want to do really high repetitions is one of my biggest pet peeves here in the gym, and it's because of ego. Guys think, hey dude, I do 50 repetitions, bro. And whenever someone tells me something like that, I go, why, man? There's no reason for doing 50 repetitions. Again, you're putting yourself at risk for injury, a chronic injury, or muscle overuse injury, which isn't something that you really want to do. So, again, for example, if you're doing arm curls, doing a super high number of repetitions, at first you're doing them nice and easily, but over the course of time, your body is going to subconsciously try to compensate for the lack of energy that's available for the biceps to be able to do the workout properly. So instead of keeping it in a straight upright position, doing a standing arm curl workout, the back will start kicking in, and where the person would be rocking their body back just to help that weight come up. This means that the energy is basically being depleted for the biceps to be able to function properly. And again, you're just doing high repetitions for the sake of doing high repetitions without much need for getting any gains. So if you're able to do high repetitions, like doing 50 repetitions, where again there's no need for that, I know I usually say promote using less weight, but in that case, how about using more weight just as long as technique is perfect? I always say all the time, use perfect technique all the time, because with perfect technique, that's how you're leaving yourself at less risk for a chronic injury. Again, for the younger folks that don't have any injuries at the moment, this is the most important time to groom yourself for having absolutely perfect technique. And that way, when you're in your 30s and your 40s, you're not going to be like some folks that have had a slipped disc or a torn rotator cuff or a bad knee from a torn meniscus or anything like that. So moving on, let's go to my favorite part of this episode, which is a segment that I call the Nerd Zone, where I will totally nerd out on you guys and bring up some studies that bring to light the academic explanation why doing super duper high repetitions isn't the wisest idea. So let's get it started. It says, in a study published last summer by the European Journal of Translational Myology, 89 active women were divided into 3 groups, one of which required the participants to go to high repetitions until failure. So basically, you're trying to do as many until that's it. You can't go doing an arm curl. You can't go bring the weight all the way up. So they say, quote, "From a practical standpoint, repetitions until failure are not necessary to optimize the enhanced muscle strength and endurance induced by strength training, and may even impair strength development at higher velocities." Another study published by Experimental Gerontology, this time they used 52 elderly men in their study, again dividing them up into 3 groups. So there's the group that does the repetitions until failure, their control group, and a group that does repetitions until 10 or 12 repetitions. Here's how they summarize their results. Quote, "These results suggest that repetitions until concentric failure," so what they mean by concentric failure, so there's 3 phases that happen in the workout. So again, going with the arm curl. The concentric is when you're bringing the weight up. The eccentric is when you're bringing the weight down. Before you're bringing the weight, there's also the amortization. That's the transition phase where it's between the eccentric and the concentric phases. Again, for the deadlift, the concentric is bringing the weight up. The eccentric is bringing the weight down. After the eccentric, right before the concentric is amortization. Again, that amortization being the transition phase, the phase that goes right in between. So going back to the study, until concentric failure. Let me start again. So these results suggest that repetitions until concentric failure does not provide further neuromuscular performance gains and muscle hypertrophy. So what they mean by neuromuscular performance gains is, for all the exercises that we do, what usually happens if you're brand new to workouts, it's not so much that if you notice the amount of weight that you're lifting when you start working out compared to a few weeks later, that the amount of the weight that you're lifting has skyrocketed. It doesn't mean that that's going to be linear. What it means is basically you already had the muscular strength to lift that amount of weight. The only thing is that your central nervous system wasn't trained to lift up that much weight. So that's also one of the benefits to weight training, going back to the study. And that even a low number of repetitions relative to the maximal possible, i.e. 50%, so 50% of the maximum possible repetitions and weight, optimizes neuromuscular performance in elderly men. Moreover, training volume appears to be more important for muscle hypertrophy than training using maximal repetitions. So hypertrophy is just another way to say muscle size. So when you're training to gain muscle size, you're training for muscle hypertrophy or for hypertrophy. So needless to say, both of these studies had really specific populations that they were looking at. Maybe you're not an active woman. I know I'm not. Maybe you're not an elderly man. I'm getting there, but I'm not there yet. So again, those studies, studies like that doesn't mean that that's the most. That means that right there, that's the rule. Don't do that many high repetitions. It's giving you a scientific reasoning why maybe high repetitions isn't the smartest thing to do. What is it? So for myself, as a certified strength and conditioning specialist, or a CSCS for short, former athlete, well, those studies and a large number of other studies that have gone into the same, that focus on the same thing, they don't show substantive strength gains or hypertrophy gains for doing those extremely high repetitions, and that's one of the reasons why I don't recommend it. And exponentially more concerning is the undeniable breakdown of technique that happens because of muscle failure. For example, doing 50 repetitions of deadlifts, where in the deadlift you're basically just hinging at the hips, bending forward while keeping the back straight while carrying a whole bunch of weight. If you're doing such high repetitions, because you're having to brace your core, after so many repetitions, your core is going to begin to fatigue, and that's where the back will start. It won't be as straight as it was for the first 10 repetitions or so, and it will start to bend. And as you're bending your back, that's where one of those discs start getting compressed a little more and a little more and a little more. Even though you're not compressing it all the way, over time, that's where the chronic injuries like lower back injuries tend to happen. At worst, a slip disc. For those folks that are resistant, that do really high repetitions, I'll give you a challenge. Get video of yourself when you're doing these high repetition workouts and view that video. Compare the first 5 repetitions to middle 5 repetitions to the last 5 repetitions of the exercise that you're doing, and compare the quality of the form of the repetition. I can guarantee you right now, without having seen one of those videos just yet, that you'll see a large breakdown in the quality of the technique. For example, again with the deadlift, where the back will begin to curl up. No matter how strong you are, even with a lightweight, or just doing the bar, eventually the core starts getting tired and it's going to bend. So there's no need to put yourself at risk for doing such high repetitions. Instead, again, that might be your cue to increase the amount of weight, so that way you'll be able to improve upon your endurance, strength, or building muscle size. So that's it that I've got for today. I want to thank you again for joining me on the very first episode of the Workout Nerdout. I hope you guys learned something from this, and if you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment. I'll try to get back to you as soon as I can. And if you have any comments, hey Julio, you suck, dude, I don't know what to say. I'll just be like, alright, brah, that's cool. Or if you want to message me directly, go ahead at my website, www.juliocss.com/contact. You can reach me via Twitter at Julio Lopez, at Julio CSCS on Twitter, and Instagram is at Julio Lopez CSCS, or again on my website. So again, that's all I've got for today. Have a great day and happy lifting.